Hello, it's Thursday, and it's your favorite news and current affairs program on TV. Today's review, and I'm Rayo Sazwa. We've got loads and loads to talk about today. But before we do, we would show you our feature story segment. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Welcome back. I've got in the studio my two favorite ladies. I've got Justina.
Hello, Ray.
Hi. And I've got Fiona.
Hello, Ray.
Hello. Are you guys ready for me?
I believe we are.
All right, we'll begin the program today with a story we chose to forget. But unfortunately, the person involved has decided she doesn't want to let the story go. So we're going to have to talk about it. Early in September, a video taken by another journalist captured the moment when Laszlo, a Hungarian camera woman, tripped Mr. Motion, who is a refugee. He was carrying his young son in his arms at the time when the camera woman tripped him. Now, we're going to show you that video. Also in the video, you would see the same lady kicking to other refugees. We'll watch that video, and when we come back, we'll start to talk about the issue for today, which is titled "Camera Woman Who Tripped Refugee to Sue Victim." So let's watch the clip.
A camera woman in Hungary has been caught on video tripping and kicking migrants at a reception centre for refugees in Ruska. Petra Laszlo, who was filming for the YouTube-based channel N1 TV, which is close to the far-right Jobbik party, can be seen here on the left. As a man carrying a toddler runs by, she clearly puts out her leg, causing him to trip and fall to the ground. In another incident, Laszlo is seen kicking a girl as she runs past her. A German journalist posted a video of her actions on his Twitter account. The woman has since been fired by N1 TV, and a British newspaper reports that she could face up to 5 years in prison if she's charged.
You know, I'd never seen anything like that in my entire years working in TV. I'd never seen anything like that. And when that story broke in September, we tried to ignore it, you know, because we were a bit sympathetic. We were like, that's a fellow colleague, you know, let's not make noise about it. Petra Laszlo was fired by her employers after the footage emerged in September, and at the moment she faces criminal trial in Hungary. But today, like I said, it's all over the papers. She's told Russian newspapers that she plans to file 2 lawsuits when her trial is over. Justina, what's going on? Does this make sense?
Well, this is the thing, is she was there as a journalist first. She wasn't there as an activist. And I feel like she was there to do her job, and that would have been to report the news. And I believe that she said something along the lines where she was trying to help the police stop them, but that's not what she was there for.
How do you help the police as a camera person? Kicking
2 people out of hundreds is not going to do anything, and that's not what she was there for. She should absolutely be charged for this, and that she then won't accept responsibility and wants to now sue Facebook, and she wants to sue the man that she tripped, because initially he said that the police did it. Well, I mean, poor guy, he's coming in as a refugee from another country. Like, this is not his fault, you know, and she should be responsible for her actions regardless of what she does. I mean, she was there to report the news and not be abusive.
I suppose she doesn't want to go down history as the evil camera woman who was, you know, against these fleeing refugees. This is a man with his child fleeing for his life and seeking
there's
protection.
Evidence.
Yes.
And it's not just the one man she tripped who was carrying the son. But clearly, the video also shows her kicking another young girl. I mean, I think there were 2 other people that she kicked. So it's outrageous for her to even think of filing a lawsuit against the victim. Is she trying to act like she is now the victim?
Yeah, well, and the thing is, it's like you learn at a young age, don't you, that, I mean, you don't touch anybody, you don't hurt them, you don't hit them. I mean, you learn that from the time you're, you know, a baby into a toddler. And so that she's doing this now in her, you know, she's a married woman, and, you know, you just don't touch anybody, regardless of the situation.
Especially when they have done nothing to you.
Yeah.
You know,
It
was very unprofessional.
And you know, she's saying, the report says, my husband wants to prove my innocence. For him, it's not a matter of honor. I'm trying to
Did you watch the video?
I don't.
Where is the honor there? Yeah. There is no honor there whatsoever. It's clear she was caught tripping the man with his son. And the thing is, when she says she wants to sue Facebook, you know, because there was heavy criticisms against her, and you know, Facebook did nothing about it. But people have the freedom of speech to say what they want, you know, and that's granted. But she can't sue this man for changing his testimony, because he must have seen the video and seen, oh, she clearly tripped me.
This wasn't the police.
Exactly.
Because at the time, it's possible he didn't see who had tripped him. He was actually running from the police, and then next thing he's tripped. But then the video goes viral, and he sees what has actually transpired. So I really don't see. I don't know. It's a really, really strange one.
Yeah, I think now she's thinking of moving to Russia after her trial's over, so let her go.
We'll see how that works out for her. I mean, no media organization would employ her as a journalist anymore, you know, or working with the journalist
because
team.
as a media person, you are supposed to stay neutral at all times, regardless of how you truly feel. Even because at the end of the day, these refugees, they really didn't want to stay in Hungary. They just wanted to pass through Hungary. Their destination was Germany. You know, so it wasn't like, okay, these guys are coming to, you know, infiltrate my country. So, and even if that was how she felt, as a professional, you have no business showing your emotion.
Well, you never know. This was caught on camera. She was a camera woman. She didn't think she would be caught on camera, but unfortunately it was. So
regardless of how you feel as a professional, hold it down, keep it inside.
Well, and this is the world we live in. Everybody has smartphones these days. I mean, I know there were other camera crew there, but you really, I mean, you have to be accountable for your actions, because it doesn't matter if you're there or on the street, and you have to expect if, you know, very easily things could be, you know, cross continents in seconds with social media. So you have to be responsible and accountable for your actions.
Okay, we'll move on quickly. Yesterday, we took a story on a former strategy advisor to David Cameron, accusing him of sucking in to the Chinese president Xi Jinping over 30 billion deal. Today, we've got this one. Ai Weiwei accuses David Cameron of sacrificing UK's human rights record for Chinese cash. Now, Ai Weiwei is one of the world's leading human rights campaigners. He has launched a scathing attack on David Cameron, accusing him of sacrificing British values for Chinese cash. Report for the goes on to say that Ai Weiwei accused the Prime Minister is lowering Britain's standards on human rights and its essential values by agreeing billions of pounds worth of trade deals during President Xi Jinping's state visit to the UK. Yesterday, we thought maybe somebody was overreacting, but it's all over the papers. And it's not just Ai Weiwei really that has come up with these accusations. Even members of the parliament are of the opinion that there are other things Britain should be focusing on right now. There are other issues. I mean, the president of China is here. We should be talking about human rights issues and how China has responded or treated people human rights wise, and not falling over him over this £30 billion deal.
Well, the thing is, David Cameron said that, first of all, you strike a relationship, and then with your relationship and your business deals, then you can now talk about other things that really matter, and then that's when you can make a positive impact. But a poll online said that 80% of people say Britain should not sacrifice or should put business deals with China over human rights issues. But Jeremy Corbyn actually discussed on human rights issues with the president of China.
He's not the prime minister.
Well, we would say he's a member of the parliament, so we wouldn't say that Britain has completely ignored the things that are important to the country. So the issue has been addressed, and also the Duke, that's Prince William, he actually had his own speech, and he talked about how China could preserve natural resources and the ocean, and could also be environmentally friendly. So yes, these issues were discussed.
So you completely dissing the way, because this we're talking loads and loads of activists. Aiwiwi is a top artist in the world. We've had other people from Britain, having the same concerns. So are you trying to play this down, that this is not anything that anybody should be concerned with? We have it that under President Xi Jinping's leadership, more than 250 human rights activists have been imprisoned. So it's a big issue. And if people are concerned about it, it means they expected that this is one of the issues that David Cameron should have been dealing with, really, during this visit.
Now, the president of China actually said that's President Xi Jinping. He said that, yes, there are human rights issues in China, but some of them have been addressed. And now it takes time to curb everything that's going on right now. But then he says, some of it have been addressed. So we can't ignore the fact that he's making an effort.
Justina, what's your take on this?
Well, I sort of feel like, his government has a propaganda office. They do that so that they can spin a lot of stories. The censorship that, a journalist can't necessarily write something and expect it to be online because things get reviewed on the government level. And I feel, like you said earlier, that there's about £10 billion in deals that have been made.
30 billion.
30 billion, which is obviously a lot of money. And that then means that we obviously trust China, and that there's an element of trust in that relationship. Now, one of the things that I found really interesting was that there was Sir Andrew Whitty. He actually is the CEO of GlaxoSmithKline, and he's been put on the board to make sure that the China-UK relationship works, and that the sort of to really promote business between the two. But GlaxoSmithKline only a year ago was fined $500 million because they were bribing the doctors there. And so, there's a lot of these things that, the deal says that there's a lot of trust there, and then you hear appointments like that, and you wonder how it's actually going to work in reality. Mm.
Okay, now that's a different twist. Different twist to the topic. But we would say, yesterday we're excited. £30 billion in British economy is a great boost. Yeah. But at the same time, we, like Aiwiwi has said, he is warning that Britain will not have a bright future if it continues to succumb to the might of China's economic power. In other words, this may look like a good deal, but all the glitter is not necessarily gold. That's the warning from Aiwiwi. All right, we'll move on to something that is actually it's fascinating, but at the same time, it's something that we all need to be paying a lot of attention to. Lately, in recent months, Jamie Oliver has actually taken the crusade of enlightening the world about the dangers, the risks, the causes of obesity in our young children. He's more or less been fighting the sugar battle, and he has been asking that Cameroon think about, you know, putting tax on sugar and sugar products. He's come under a lot of fire, but today Jamie Oliver is saying that he's expecting a kick, really, from food and drink companies, and he is ready for whatever it is they have to throw at him, because at the end of the day, he's looking at a much bigger picture. He's got kids. In the UK, obesity problem has become really a serious issue that everyone ought to be paying attention to. And I think we should applaud Jamie Oliver for what he's doing. Just a couple of days ago, he sat with MPs to discuss what the government can do to actually curb or fight obesity in children. We'll watch that clip. And when we come back, we will be talking to you, really. On my table here, I can see
lots of
sugar. So we will see that clip, and when we come back, it will be up to you to talk to us a bit about sugar. Let's watch the clip.
Business being put before child health. End of story. And you know, over my dead body. So I don't care that I'm uncomfortable. I don't care that I'm going to get a rattling from industry. I was born in the industry. I was born in a pub. You know, industry has to be kept in line, and it mustn't run this country, because the pound will always command. So, you know, when my kid's naughty and it's a little bit leery, goes on the naughty step. Simple. And that's what this is. That's what the tax is. That's what the clarity is.
And would you want to see that labelling on fruit juices and all forms of drinks?
I think it's absolute clarity. Absolute clarity.
Obviously, we've heard about your Sugar Rush campaign, which has got a number of components, including a 5-point manifesto and various petitions. But how do you respond to accusations, not necessarily from this committee, but accusations which suggest that you are actually demonising sugar?
I love sugar. I think it's great. I think I've never said ban sugary sweetened drinks, and I've never said stop using it. I think there's honest sugar and dishonest sugar, and surprisingly, I think a chocolate bar is quite honest. It's always been what it is. We always have known a cake or a bit of chocolate to be an indulgence, and when there's humongous amounts in sugary sweetened drinks, which, just to remind you, is the largest single source of sugar in our children's and teenagers' diet, that's why I've honed in on them. That's why I believe they've earned the right to higher responsibility and, in my opinion, a tax. And what teachers pull out of packed lunches is phenomenal. I mean, that in primary schools is inappropriate. And when I did a summit with 800 businesswomen in Australia, and I said, look, there's way too many of these energy drinks in primary school kids' lunchboxes. What's the right age for a child to have a caffeine, sugar-based product? And I am not a scientist, I don't know, but I do think that the primary school age is definitely safe. I mean, where does it, you know, there's nothing on the front here that tells me that this, and you might think, well, who on earth gives that to kids? Well, when little Johnny's been told that he's tired all the time, probably because the diet's not right as well, guess what? He gets an energy drink. There's little, do you know what I mean? I think, and also what's interesting is because we have no nutritional standards, when a teacher removes this from a lunchbox, it can often become quite a fractured conversation between a parent who's had their stuff removed from their kid's property, and there's no government legislation that they can disperse the conversation or the argument and say, I'm ever so sorry, Mr. Brown, but actually these are government guidelines, I'm just doing my job. Is it right that someone that works in a corner shop or a supermarket sells this to a kid? And at what age? And I am referring to similar structures like alcohol, cigarettes. You know, how old are you? Got some ID? You know, if Johnny, who's 9, walks into the local corner shop and wants one of these, you know, we've got to get medieval on this stuff, and we can't take any more. We can't, and I think it's the little stupid things that upset me the most. You know.
Now, on Tuesday, Dr. Alison Tedstone, who is the Director of Diet and Obesity, told MPs that there was evidence that tax sugar could be an effective measure to cut childhood obesity. But despite all of this evidence, the Prime Minister David Cameron is reported to have ruled out tax, you know, on sugar as a blunt measure to fight obesity. What do you think? Is he right?
Now, the thing is, obesity is costing the NHS at least £5.1 billion. And even child obesity is growing because one out of 4 children between the ages of 2 and 10 years of age are obese. And there's so many dangers to obesity. There's diseases that come out of it, like heart disease, diabetes, musculoskeletal disorders, cancer, depression, and even anxiety. So it's really a terrible issue that we need to curb in the UK. And obese children are likely to become obese adults.
So do you think, the question really is,
yeah,
this is what, you know, Jamie Oliver is saying, let's put, you know, let's tax sugar.
Yeah.
Prime Minister is saying that's not the solution. Question is, what do you think? Is he right in his approach?
The thing about obesity is it's a diet and activity issue. So it's a lifestyle issue. So if we increase more physical activity in our schools and implement it in society, it's not just about diet. It's not just about the sugars and the Coke. So there's so much more that needs to be considered. So if Jamie Oliver is only going to say, okay, it's about sugar, let's tax sugar. If it's more expensive, someone else, they could still want to buy it. It's a matter of choice. Okay,
quickly, Justina, we will come to you. I mean, we're talking sugar. I just want you to make something a little clear, you know, here. Not all sugars are the same, you know. So, you know, are there bad sugar, good sugar? Talk to us about sugar.
Well, that's the thing is there's a little bit of a misconception because all sugars are not the same. So there's sugars that are added into food and drinks and that are, you know, not necessarily a natural sugar, like a natural sugar you could find in an apple. So so there are different, there are naturally occurring sugars, and then there are free sugars, and those free sugars are those sort of ones that are added in that aren't in something naturally.
So we hear a lot about, you know, figures around how much we should actually be taking in. Mm-hmm. It gets a bit confusing sometimes. Can you break this down for us?
It does, and to be honest, I think in a lot of ways that the government still isn't really clear on it, because what the government says is that you can have 90 grams per day as an average adult. So that doesn't necessarily differentiate between a male or a female. You know, somebody who obviously weighs more, is bigger, might be able to, a male might be able to tolerate more than a female would. And that also doesn't differentiate between the free sugars and the natural occurring sugars. And that also doesn't address what children should be having, because there's no way that a child should have 90 grams of sugar a day. So what there's it's called the Government Scientific Advisory Committee on Nutrition. They've put together some guidelines for children and how much sugar they should be having. And what they say is that children that are aged 4 to 6 should have no more than 19 grams of sugar, which ends up being about 4 1/4 teaspoons. So 4 grams of sugar is about a teaspoon, is sort of how you can look at it. Children that are between the ages of 7 to 10 should have no more than 24 grams, so that's about 6 teaspoons. And then children that are 11 years plus should have no more than 30 grams, which is about 7.5 teaspoons. So not a lot when you think that that's also like the free sugars as well, because you can have an apple, and an apple would be about 2.5 teaspoons would be classified as sugar.
So can you do a bit of demonstration for us?
So you're probably wondering what all this sugar is in front of you. Mm-hmm. So, well, let me just ask, do you guys take sugar in your tea or your coffee?
I don't.
I take sugar.
How much do you?
Well, sometimes 3, sometimes no
3.
sugar at all, yes.
Okay, so let's just say that this is your cup of coffee here, and we'll put in the 3 sugars here. Now, that is just in your morning coffee. So if you were just to have this is a can of fizzy drink, so this particular one is a Pepsi. It has 31.5 grams of sugar in it. So when you think about, you're already having that in your one sort of intake. Add another 4, 5, ooh, 8, 9. That's about how much sugar is in your 1 can of soda. So you're literally drinking that.
A quarter of the glass.
Pretty much a quarter of the glass. So when you put it in context like that, for a child, if you are about 11 years old and you should only have 30 grams in the whole day, this is just about your whole day sugar intake, and that doesn't include the sugar that's already in bread, in fruit,
in natural
in
foods,
milk, and in everything else. So that just goes to show you, I mean, the amount of sort of that then ends up getting converted into fat. You get fat around your liver, around your organs. It leads to obesity, diabetes. It is an epidemic.
So finally, I mean, we need to round up now. Sugar is bad for us, isn't it?
Yes, in moderation. I
would not think that.
You know, if you have an excessive amount of sugar, then it is. But if you have it in moderation and within reasonable limits, then it's okay.
I think that, like, some parents that I know reduce or should I say limit the amount of sugars that they give to their child. So depending on the age of the child would not take certain amount of sugar in a day. So it's not just about a government issue. It's also about how we train our children. So you help them and train them to be physically active and to be health conscious in terms of their diets. So it's all a general issue.
Well, it is, and you want them to make good food choices, don't you? So you're sort of grooming that so that they're not going for a can of soda every single day for
That's
lunch.
Correct, yes. But you know, it's definitely necessary because they do need the energies that come from sugar. For me, I take sugar sometimes because I need the energy that it gives to me. So it's not just about sugar is bad.
Don't you think if you had foods that gave you the energy, it's like that Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine thy food. It's like if you just ate, let's just say if you just ate raw all the time, or foods that were just, the food could give you the energy as opposed to the sugar.
Yeah, that's very correct. But sometimes the things that are good for you are not very sweet.
Now you're contradicting yourself, Fiona. 1 minute you're talking for sugar, you're talking against sugar. But that's the much we can take. Thank you so much. It's still our National Cholesterol Month. We wanted to show you a video, but we don't have time to do that now. Hopefully next week we would show you that amazing video. But we just want to encourage you, stay healthy. Always choose the healthy options when you've got drinks and food in front of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. Until same time next week, it's goodbye from Fiona and Justina. Have a lovely weekend. Bye now.